Welcome to the Art of Plenty. We are still recovering from my daughter's really difficult mood that lasted, I want to say 4 days. So we're going to unpack that today because it is a little intense when you have a person in the family that is just in one of those dark slumps and the impact that it has on a family, and how in the world do we help our kids get through these big emotions? This is the Art of Plenty. I'm Amy McInnes, and I am so glad that you are here today. And if you could do me one small favor, please click subscribe. If you are engaged in the show, if you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, it would just do me a huge favor, and I would be so grateful if you would just hit subscribe. Provided you like the show and you want to keep listening, please do it. Thank you. Okay, my daughter. So I've never, ever done sleepovers with our family. Well, that's not entirely true. I believe that the first sleepover that my oldest had was her 14th birthday, or maybe her 13th birthday. So kind of not as kids. I allowed my teens to have sleepovers, but not my kids. And the exception to that would be if we were traveling, I might let my child sleep in the bedroom with the family that we were staying with if there was another kid that they were close in age. And I've done sleepovers where they stay at grandparents' houses or at my brother's house, and their aunties are watching them or they're with their cousins. But I've not done friend sleepovers. And the first time this came up, it actually came up in kindergarten, which actually floored me. My daughter came home with an invitation to go to a sleepover in kindergarten, and every girl, I believe it was the entire group of girls from her grade, were invited to the sleepover party. And it was such an obvious no for me. Like, no, there's no way you're going to a sleepover. And go to the party, have fun, take your PJs, get your pajamas on, and we'll pick you up late. Like, I think we said 10 o'clock. So she got to stay at the party till 10, and then we picked her up. And it was difficult for her, but I think because she was so little and she didn't really have a lot of sleepover experience, meaning she didn't hear a lot about that before then. That was kind of her first experience with a sleepover. It wasn't a big thing for her. And so we've gone through this, and all my kids know that mom doesn't do sleepovers. They're not allowed. And we have friends in our friend group where their kids are not allowed to sleep over at other people's house, but they're allowed to have sleepovers, and kids are allowed to come to their house. So my kids have asked me, well, Mom, can we please just have people sleep over here if I'm not allowed to go and sleep over at such and such house? And I just can't do that because it feels to me very dishonoring that your house is not safe, but my house is safe. I can't trust my kid with you, but you can trust your kid with me. It just feels very, I don't know, one-sided, kind of off. Like, I get it. Like, I would feel more comfortable having a kid stay at my house than having my kid maybe stay at another house. But I just felt like, no, that isn't okay. I didn't like the message that it was sharing. Now, it's really difficult to tell a kindergartner why they're not allowed to have sleepovers. And the reason why it's just been a no matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, this is a no, is because of my background in mental health, my background in working with kids, and my background as a therapist. I know of too many situations, and I know too much of the landscape around sexual abuse to allow sleepovers. Now, this does not mean even for a second that I think my children's friends are going to hurt my kids. I don't. I mean, there's definitely families that I feel more comfortable with, and I have a range of comfort, but I just know that this is a situation that once there's that level of familiarity, there very vulnerable when they're at a sleepover. They don't necessarily have a way to escape. It just creates an atmosphere or a situation where there is potential for abuse that maybe isn't there in the situation of a play date or other circumstances that I do allow my kids to participate in. Do I think that if I allow my kids to go to a sleepover, it is going to actually mean that this is going to be the result? Well, no, I don't think that. But I don't feel like I can risk it. And because of the stories I know, because of the experiences that I have been privy to, it's just a non-compromise thing for me. I can't do it. I can't do it. And how do you explain that? How do you explain that to a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, even an 8-year-old or an 11-year-old that this is why? And I was asking my oldest the other day, I said, when did I tell you why? And I told her quite young. Like, I think she said that she was in grade 6 or 7 when I told her why we don't do sleepovers. Or maybe it was even grade 5. And she's a different kid. She has her head on her shoulders in a different way. So it doesn't surprise me that I had that conversation with her at that age. But my other kids, I didn't necessarily have that conversation at that same time. So they know that there's no sleepovers, but they don't necessarily know why. And I just talk to them, it's a way to keep you safe. And it's a way that I know that I can keep you safe. It's an easy way to protect. And like I said before, I know that not every sleepover results in that, but even one opportunity is too many opportunities. And you may trust the parents, but you don't necessarily know who else is in the house, who's coming to visit. Is there alcohol involved? Are there older siblings? Like there's just so many dynamics and there's so many stories. And I also know that being a therapist and being exposed to these stories, you're not necessarily seeing every kid, right? It's not a picture of every kid's experience, because the kids that are accessing services, it just gives you a very different perspective. It's like if you're an oncologist, everybody you see has cancer. So you think it just creates this sense that cancer is everywhere. And I mean, cancer is ridiculously prolific right now, but maybe that's not the best example, but I think you get what I'm saying, that when you are in that mindset and seeing those things and it is happening every time, every other time, you start to over generalize the frequency because of the exposure that you have to that. But that doesn't matter to me. Even one time, even no times, it felt like something that I couldn't think or do. So my daughter comes home and she wants to go for a sleepover. And she's asked before, but because I've had so many kids, because I've said no so many times, there's kind of this understanding that you don't even ask. But she's getting older and she's feeling like maybe this is the time I can have a sleepover. I want to have a sleepover. And so she asks me, and this is how I approached it. And maybe this was the mistake, but I said, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Because I do think it's important that when we have these like really strict, no compromise type things like I do with sleepovers, that at times it is important to evaluate, because sometimes we can get so locked in. I can get so locked into things that I've always done or things that I've always said. And I didn't want to do that situation here. I thought, you know what? Okay, I'll think about it. I'll talk to your dad about it and I'll get back to you. So I mull this sleepover over for a couple days, and I come away feeling, after thinking this and talking to my partner, come away feeling like, no, I'm not willing to compromise on this today in this situation. Now, again, it's not that I had any concern that this was going to be a reality. Like this, do you know what I mean? Like so how do you say that to your kid? You can't have a sleepover because of the risk to you without them thinking that you're calling their friends' families abusers, which is not at all what I think. It's it's not like that. And I can't explain what it is like, but it's not like that. But I know that this is just something that I can't compromise on. And she's overcome. She couldn't even go to school. Like, I have never seen her so down about it. Just heartbroken. Just like I ripped out her soul. She was so down. Like a storm cloud was just around her. And I really wanted to honor how she felt. I really wanted to honor the disappointment and the sadness. And so I said, so I'm pulling out my counseling type skills, and I'm having a conversation with her about this. Like, I get it. This is so hard. I can see why you're disappointed, and just kind of like nurturing that this sucks. Like, yeah, I know I caused it. I know that I can change it in a second. But I'm just acknowledging to her that it's too bad. Like, this sucks. It does suck. It would be great if you could go for the sleepover. So I'm like wanting to honor her heart. And I'm doing that. And then, the day kind of goes by, and I'm talking to her about it's time to kind of move on. Like, it's okay to be sad and disappointed about this, but it's now starting to impact everything else that you enjoy. It's starting to impact the things that you were looking forward to, because you're not looking forward to them anymore, or you can't move through this enough that you are doing the things that you really want to do and that you like. So it's sucking the joy out of every other part of her life, which to me, I'm like, okay, bit of a reality check here, right? But kids got a lot of stuff going on, and kids at that age also have a lot going on, like it's an important time for her socially, and it's an important time just getting older, right? And, kind of that preteen age, it's a significant time. And I'm trying to give space to her to experience this disappointment, to work through the disappointment, and also acknowledging that there's a lot more at work here, right? Friends matter, the disappointment matters, and there's this real deep sense that she's going to be left out. And she's not just going to be left out of the party and the sleepover part, because I said she could go to the party first, and then I'd pick her up late before the sleepover. But she's got this sense that she's going to miss out the following week when she's back at school and all the friends are there and they're talking about the party and what happened at the sleepover piece. So it's in her mind that I'm not there is like going to continue coming up for her. And that part, because she does not want to be left out. You know how some kids can handle that? Like if they don't have the same connections, or if they're not in with like a certain group of kids, and other kids struggle more with that. Like the social piece and the connection piece really matters to them, and being loved and having close friends really matters. Well, that's this kid, right? This social interaction, this social acceptance really matters to her. She really cares about it, and she can't shake it. She can't shake the disappointment. So I feel like it lasted like 4 days of just agony and storm cloud and kind of that whole Eeyore type aura. And I can't get her to shift it. It does not matter what I say. It does not matter how skilled I am in communicating. It's not shifting. And you know what I was thinking about? How many memories do I have as a child that really shaped me? And I don't have an incredible memory. I don't necessarily remember a lot from my childhood. I sometimes have to really work to remember things. So I was thinking, is this the kind of situation that will shape her herself, her way of being in the world, the way that she thinks about things. Does this situation have that kind of power in her? Because it's lasting. Like in previous situations with kids that wanted to go for sleepovers and it was a no, it maybe lasted like 2 hours. Maybe it lasted a day. And we were 3 days of not even really smiling, which to me, I'm like, okay, that's weird. So then when I see that, I'm like even more so digging in my heels. Like, okay, this really isn't a good idea for her to go. If it matters this much that she is missing out on all of these other things that she's excited about and really looking forward to, and it's sucking the joy out of everything else that she typically finds joy in, there's something off about this situation. And which just made me feel like I don't even know if going to the party is a good idea at this time. So I'm trying to encourage her. I'm trying to love on her. And I'm trying, of course, to protect her. And I'm feeling like a total failure. And part of me just really wanted to let her go. I don't want her to miss out. I don't want her to have anything that causes that amount of disappointment or grief. I want the best for her, and I want her to be happy. I don't know that I necessarily felt torn because I was pretty sure in my decision. And like I said, when it was lasting, I thought, okay, I'm really making the right decision if this matters this much. But there's that part of me as a mom that wants to fix it, that wants to make it okay. And that's not always my job. It's not always my job to fix it. Because life is going to show up for this kid. Life is going to show up, and there is going to be plenty of disappointment and plenty of heartache and plenty of feeling left out, and that you aren't connected with people that you want to be connected with, or that you're missing out. There is plenty of that coming her way. And she's going to have to navigate it all. And I want her to be able to navigate it with grace. And I want her to be able to navigate it with a sense of, this won't define my life. This won't define my future. I can deal with disappointment. I can work through disappointment. I can still form meaningful, lasting connections. I can work through things that are hard. That's what I really want for my kids. So sometimes I just have to let it go. I have to let it be and be there for her, knowing that it's not worth the compromise for me. Because maybe it would be a slippery slope. Maybe one sleepover turns into a dozen sleepovers. Makes it harder to have a hard line when the hard line isn't hard. But it was awful. It was an awful 3 days. My heart just ached for her, just seeing how difficult it was. Like, this was a big deal for her. And as a mom, it's easy to think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Just get over it. Like, you can do it. Come on. But in her little world, it was massive. And it's hard to know that I'm the reason that she's having this difficult time. I mean, it was me. I'm the one that said no. I'm the one that put my foot down and wouldn't compromise on this and held this line that, no, we don't do this in our family. This isn't what our family does. She did come through it, though. And by the time the weekend rolled around, she was smiling again. I'm serious. This kid did not smile for 3 days, and this is a kid who smiles. I just had to trust that it was going to be okay. And I had to trust that she was going to get it. And at some point we'll have a conversation about it, and she may never agree with me, but I think she's going to know that I was trying to do my best, that I am trying to do my best as a mother. And I guess that's all I can really hope for, is that at some point this will be reconcilable for her. That she will understand where I'm coming from. I don't get the sense that she's harboring unforgiveness towards me for this. She really does seem to have moved through it. But it's been really difficult. And next time I'm like, there's no, I'm going to think about this and I will honor you by taking this question away. I'll just say no to avoid the increase of drama. But maybe, you know what? Maybe it didn't even add to the drama. Maybe that heartache would have felt the same. Maybe I just delayed the heartache by saying that I would actually think about it. I'm telling you, it is hard being a mom. And it's hard being a mom when the things that you know you need to do for your kids are not what any of their friends' moms are doing. And like, there's no judgment in that. Families need to make the decisions that they think are best for their families and for their kids. And we're not all going to be making the same decisions. And it is hard. It is hard to be a mom who doesn't just do what all the other moms do. But I can't not do it, because that's my responsibility as a mom, is to be the best mom that I can be for the kids that I have. And the best that I can do is to not only honor them, but also honor how I feel and what I think about the situation, because I'm still the parent. I'm still the adult. So I guess I'm just holding space for how difficult it is at times. And I want to encourage you that just because it's hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Because parenting is just flat out hard at times. If you got a story like mine, I'd love to hear it. Send me a DM. I would love to connect with the people that this podcast speaks to. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is The Art of Plenty. Have a beautiful day.